Okay, chapter 11 is where we talk about bonds payable. And the first problem we're going to do is exercise 11-3. So it says, on the first day of its fiscal year, Chin Company issued $10 million of 5-year, 7% bonds to finance its operations of producing and selling home improvement products. Interest is paid semi-annually, and the bonds were issued at a market interest rate of 8%, resulting in Chin receiving cash of $9,594,415. And it says to journalize the entries to record the following. So the first thing we want to do is to record the issuance of the bonds. So if we issue a bond, that means that we're going to receive cash in exchange for that bond payable. So we're going to need to pay it back in the future in exchange for getting cash now. So the first thing that we know is that we receive cash of $9.5 million. So when we receive cash, that's increasing our cash balance, which is increasing an asset, and we increase assets by debiting. So we'll debit our cash for $9,594,415. Fix that. Okay. And why did we get that cash? Because we issued a bond payable. A bond payable is a liability. We increase liabilities by crediting. So we'll credit our bond payable, and the bond payable is for $10 million. So based on those two items, we can see that our debits don't equal our credits, so we're going to have to debit something. And what we're going to debit is a discount on the bond payable. How do we know it's a discount? Why did we get less cash than it was worth? Well, the bonds issued are at 7%, but the market rate is at 8%. So the market rate is greater than the bond payable rate. So people are going to be willing to pay less for it. So we're going to have a discount of $405,585. Okay, part 2 says the first semi-annual interest payment. It says the bond discount was combined with the semi-annual interest payment. I forgot to put our date. So our date for the issuance is January 1st. The date for our first semi-annual interest payment, so it's semi-annual, that means we'll do it twice a year. So it will be on June 30th. Okay, so we're going to have an interest payment, and we also need to amortize our discount. So the first one is going to be our interest expense. We don't quite fill in that one yet, but that's going to be what our offsetting debit will be for amortizing our discount on our bond payable. And then we're also going to pay out some cash. Okay, so the easiest one to figure out is how much cash we're going to pay out. The cash is the actual money going to the lender. And we base that on the face value of the bond payable, which is $10 million, the rate on the bond payable, which is 7%, and the amount of time outstanding, which is 6 months out of 12 months. That 7% is the annual rate, so we need to account for that we're making payments semi-annually. So if I do $10 million times 7% times half a year, we get a cash payment of $350,000. But we also need to undo some of our discount. So in order to figure out that number, that discount number, we take the total discount, which is $405,585. That's from part A up here. Our whole discount's $405,585. We figured that out as the difference between the face value and the cash value. And then we know that we need to allocate this to the whole life of the bond, which is 5 years. So the time period is going to be 1/5. But once again, we're doing semi-annual payments, so we also need to do either 6 divided by 12, which is the same as half of the year. So to get our discount, if we do that math, we get $40,559. And then our interest expense is just the combination of those two together. So you can't figure out your interest expense on its own when you have a discount or a premium, because you need to figure out what the actual cash payment will be, what the amortization of your discount will be, and then your total interest expense is the combination of those two. Okay, so part 3, our second semi-annual interest payment. So this one should be pretty easy because it's the same as part 2. So we're going to have the same general journal entry, interest expense. We'll have our discount amortization part, and then our actual cash payment. And since we're doing everything on an equal semi-annual basis, it's going to be the same exact journal entry. So we don't need to go through doing the math again. We can just copy what we had from part 2. Okay, if we move on to part B, it says determine the amount of the bond interest expense for the first year. Okay, so in part A, 1 or 2 and 3, we had interest expense of $390,559 twice. So to figure out what it will be for the whole year, we just take that $390,559, multiply by 2, and you get $781,118. And then part C is explaining what exactly is going on here. So it says, why was the company able to issue the bonds for only $9,594,000 instead of the full $10 million? Well, it's because the market rate of interest is greater than the contract rate of interest. Okay, so if we want to do a little summary here, if the market rate is greater than the contractual rate, that means that I'm going to have a discount because people could borrow elsewhere for a larger interest rate. So they could make more money off someone else. And then the opposite, if the market rate is less than the contractual rate, we're going to be at a premium because people cannot get as much interest on investments elsewhere. So remember, we're issuing the bond payable here. So people are borrowing from us. In order to get them to borrow from us, they're going to want to make the most interest. So if our contractual rate is larger, that means they're going to want to come to us because they can make more money off of us, which is why it's at a premium. And the opposite is true for a discount.